Okay, so let me get this straight. Insurance companies steal $80 billion a year from Medicare. The DOJ is actively investigating. The health secretary just said on camera, quote, "Yeah, they're lying." And then he handed them $13 billion more. That is the policy. Tuesday, AOC cornered Secretary Kennedy at the House Energy and Commerce hearing. Watch how fast he pivots when she pulls the receipts out. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe right now, because the full breakdown drops the second this clip ends.
Recognize Representative Ocasio-Cortez for her 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. How you doing, Mr. Secretary?
Good. Thank you for asking.
No, of course, of course. I'm not sure if you remember our last chat about a year ago where we talked about Medicare Advantage. But, you know, I think one area of agreement that we have, I hope, is that these insurance companies are fleecing the public, right? Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
And they are, I mean, it's highway robbery on the American people, on people who are sick, on seniors. We're on the same page about that, right?
Yes.
And last year, I brought up Medicare, the Medicare Advantage program to you, because these corporations like UnitedHealth, Aetna, are known to be defrauding the public. And really, we know that with Medicare Advantage, it's to the tune of about $80 billion. And the Department of Justice has, in fact, opened an actual—
You mentioned United last time.
So you remember this, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad that we're able to kind of jog the memory on there. We chatted about this, and we actually chatted about it afterwards, too. And so we know this. We're all on the same page here. United, CVS, Aetna, they're defrauding the American public to the tune of $80 billion a year. We know that they're doing this to the public. You know it, I know it. We've even had some bipartisan chat about this. And so I was surprised to see about 2 weeks ago, you had decided to give them another $13 billion. And it was used through the mechanism of the MA reimbursement rates. But I want to know, why did you do that?
And first of all, I agree with you on everything that you said. We have to look at the reimbursements that the industry gets, which they said there'd been a 5% increase in cost. And that if we didn't give them the full 5%, they were going to lose, that it would impair patient choice, particularly in some regions of the country. The industry would leave. We gave them a 2% raise.
Right. And I hear what you're saying, Mr. Secretary, that the industry is saying that they're increasing these costs, but the industry is defrauding the public. So we know they're lying. We know they're lying through even their mechanisms. They are upcoding. They are telling us, the public, the government, Medicare, our systems, that people are sicker than they are so that they can get more money. They're lowering their reimbursement rates. They're increasing denial. So we know that these folks are lying. We know that they're bad actors. And if I'm hearing you correctly, we are giving them more money because they're saying that they need it?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
First of all, I appreciate everything you've done, and you speaking out about upcoding. We are ending upcoding. We're using AI now to detect it, to prosecute it, and to end it. Yeah, they're lying, but my job as HHS secretary, I have to balance the impact on patients if there are no options in those areas. So we'll do a lot to verify we don't trust. We do a lot to verify.
And I hear what you're saying. I mean, even when you talked about that 2%, it's something that I found interesting too, because that 2.48% wasn't initially what you were going to go for. You had announced in January that, in fact, CMS had proposed an increase of 0.09%,
Yeah.
which would have essentially kept payments flat at minimum to these corporations like United and Aetna that are robbing us. And so there was an interesting amendment that you had made. We've got the experts saying, okay, even when you start looking at that inflation rate or that cost rate, even that at most is 0.09%. But then it seemed as though there was some industry backlash. And now we're at 2.48%. We're giving them $13 billion when they are stealing $80 billion a year as it is. I say we let them eat it. Why not?
Well, you can see from what we originally published what our intention was, to give them essentially nothing.
Okay.
And we got a huge blowback, not only from the industry, but providers and everybody else who said, we are going to experience closures. We're going to experience places where you cannot get insurance. It is going to leave all these patients high and dry. We did our own investigation. And, you know, you can look at healthcare.
So what AOC is hammering on here is called upcoding. And if you've never heard the term, you're not alone. Most people haven't. Here's how the scam works. Insurers like UnitedHealth and CVS Aetna comb through patient records and pile on diagnoses that doctors never actually treated. Patient looks sicker on paper. Medicare pays out more. The shareholder eats well. Federal watchdogs peg the bleeding at $80 billion a year. Every single year. That's not a loophole. That's the business model. Here's the part that should make your blood boil. The DOJ has open, active investigations into UnitedHealth and CVS Aetna right now for this exact thing. The fraud isn't alleged, it's documented. Kennedy himself said it in the clip. Quote, "Yeah, they're lying." That's the health secretary admitting it on camera in a congressional hearing. And he still greenlit the raise. Now watch this pivot, because this part is wild. In January, CMS published a proposed rate adjustment of 0.09%. Basically flat, essentially nothing, as Kennedy himself put it in the hearing. Then the industry loses its mind, launches a multi-million-dollar lobbying blitz, and by April, the final rate magically lands at 2.48%. That's a $13 billion swing in 3 months from the agency that knows for a fact they're being defrauded. Let that number sink in. 0.09 up to 2.48. That's not a tweak. That's not a rounding error. That's a 27 times increase after industry pressure. And the justification? They said they'd leave the market. So what? Let them. These are the same companies currently under federal investigation for stealing $80 billion a year. Let a nonprofit pick up the contract. And this is the trap the reporting lays out perfectly. Insurers hold patient coverage hostage. They say, cut our payments, we walk from rural markets, seniors lose their plans, and you take the blame. So HHS gets to shrug and say, our hands are tied. But here's the question nobody at the agency wants to answer. Who built that dependency in the first place? These same companies did. On purpose. By design. It's like a bank robber telling the cops, if you arrest me, I'm taking the hostages with me. And the cops going, fair point. Here's $13 billion. Please leave the hostages alone. That's not regulation. That's a ransom negotiation with the guys on the payroll. Here's the one genuine bright spot in this whole mess. It's actually broken through the partisan noise. DOJ is formally investigating both UnitedHealth and Aetna. Republicans and Democrats are both demanding answers from HHS. Even Kennedy told AOC in that clip, quote, highway robbery on the American people, on sick people, on seniors. He said it. He clearly means it. And then he signed off on the $13 billion anyway. So here's the line. Next time someone tells you Medicare Advantage is a great deal, say this. The companies running it are under active DOJ investigation for stealing $80 billion a year. The health secretary admitted on camera they're lying. And his own agency just handed them $13 billion more. That is not healthcare. That is a heist with a government subsidy. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who still thinks this system is working. I'll see you in the next one.